Hello everyone, it's Sheila back with part 5 of the tutorial. I'm going to show how I put the neck on this cardigan and have the two fronts. I pick the stitches up on the two fronts, and I also I've got the back and the two sleeves. I've picked the stitches up and put them on a needle so they're ready just to go straight from the to knit it straight from the needle. So that was the back. I put the back on and the sleeves. That's how much I have left of the fourth ball. It'll probably not be enough to go around the whole neck, so I'm going to have to start under there. This is the fifth ball. So if you're doing the same size I'm doing, it'll probably take you 5. These are 50-gram balls. It'll probably take you 5 balls. But if I'd done this probably about the length of the body and everything about half an inch shorter, I probably would have had enough, because not sure of how actually long I needed for little Eddie, so I did it a little bit extra. So anyway, I'm going to show how to pick up the stitches. It's the end on it. Put the ball on the floor. So this is the right front. I'm starting with the right front first. And I'm going to pick up, these were 5 stitches that were cast off at the, I have to blow that up a little bit so you can see better. The 5 stitches that are cast off for the neck. So to get the needle through the first stitch. And I put it through both parts of the cast off stitch. You know, the V part, I'm picking up the whole thing. So that's one. It's a bit hard to get these stitches at first because they're a bit tight. That's 2. Three. 4 and 5. That's those 5 stitches. Now I'm going to pick the stitches up the side. I want 16 stitches all together, so that's 11 stitches up here I'm going to pick up. And I'm going to go, I'm not going into this bit here because it'll make a hole. I'm going into that part there. So that's 6. And then I'm going to into each of these, the middle of each of these stitches where I've decreased up here. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and the last one, that's 16. So that's 16 stitches I've picked up that part of the neck. And I'm going to knit this straight across all the stitches on the needle. I probably have to knit into the back of these stitches because of the way I picked some of them up. And then the last 5 here. And then there's the stitches from the left front, and you're working the opposite way. You want 16 again, so that would be 11 from there down to where you pick up the stitches across the cast off stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, missed that one, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 7, 8, keep missing it, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then the 5 cast off stitches again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's all the stitches for the neck. 62, 64, 66, 69 stitches. That's 69 stitches you've picked up all together. And you'll need to knit about 6 rows of knit 1, purl 1, twisted rib. and then cast that off very loosely. But I will come back to that. So I'm going to knit the first row of rib, but in just ordinary rib, because it's rather difficult to twist the stitches on the first row. And one other little note, I always put the neckband on before I stitch it up, because sometimes, do one or two more stitches across here. Because sometimes if you put the sometimes if you sew it up first and then put the band on, you get loose bits like this here, loose stitches. But if you sew it up afterwards, you can tighten up those loose stitches and things with, you know, an extra stitch here and there, which you can't do once you've got the neck on. Well, that's off the knitting. So that's why I do the sewing up after I put the neckband on. I've got all the ends tangled here. And then you just have to rib across like that. After I've done the first row and rib, I'll be going on to twisted rib and for about 6 rows, and then cast off very loosely. And I'll come back and show how to sew this up after I sew it up before I do the button bands, because you can measure the button bands better after it's all sewn up. So that's 6 rows I've done in twisted rib, and now I'm going to cast the stitches off for the finish off the neckband. And I'm going to cast off, I'm going to do in twisted rib the same as I was knitting the rib. I'm doing that the same to cast the stitches off. And I'm casting them off quite loose. I don't want them tight, but not too loose, because you still want them to fit around the neck properly. And as you can see, it's not too tight and it's not too loose. And I'm going to do that to the end of the row and cast all of the stitches off. And I'll meet you at the end when I've finished. Off the stitches, and you can see there's plenty stretch. You don't want it tight because it would make it tight when you fastened it around the neck. So now all I have to do is sew it up and put the button bands and the buttonhole band on. But I have to knit those first, but I like to sew them up first because you can measure better for doing the bands once it's all completely sewn up. And to do the sewing up, after some of these, well, I've sewn one of the raglans up here to show what it looks like when it's been sewn up. And you can see on the other side, that's how the raglan's going to look when it's all sewn up. And I have the next one here pinned, ready to sew, and I'm going to show you how I do this. I already have the needle threaded. So if you look when you're sewing, you have like little notches on each side here, here and here, and all the way down. Those little notches, that's where you sew through those. And I'm starting off up the top, and I always leave a long end when I finish a piece. That's what I do the sewing up with. So I'm going to go across to that, and as you can see, that stitch is quite loose there, so I'm going to go up that way as well to tighten the stitch. That's why I like to do my sewing up after I put the neck on, after the neckband. So I'm going to go from one little notch to another. Get my pin cushion there. Or the next notch there. And don't pull the wool too tight when you do it, or else you'll gather up the seam, which you don't want. You just leave it loose like the way that one is. And it doesn't show on the other side, you can't tell, there's different colours on here, so you just loosely go from that little, I call them little notches on that side. And this is called flat stitching. This is the way I do all my raglan seams. These are the cast off stitches I'm coming to now. And when I cast off the last stitches, put the needle in, put the yarn over the needle and pull it through. That makes a little knot. And I do that 3 times. I haven't got much wool left on here. There, that's through that's the 3rd knot that I've done, and then I take it's going a bit blurry as well. Just take the needle through a couple of stitches and pull it through. And cut it off. And that's another seam done. As you can see, and turn it over on the other side. That's 2 seams. The side, the sleeve, and onto the back. And as you can see, the stretch still in the seams. It's a little bit better. So that's part of the seams done. And when I've done that, I will be sewing up the sides, the sleeve seams and the side seams, and then I'll do the button bands. But that'll be for another day, so thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll show you the rest next time.